Have you ever walked into a room and felt the weight of unseen truths pressing against your soul? The flicker of a forced smile, the tremor in a voice masking pain, the silent resentment coiled beneath polite words. Did you see it all, clear as day, when no one else did? This isn't a gift to be celebrated lightly. It's a burden, heavy and isolating. A vision so sharp it cuts through the veils of human pretense, leaving you exposed to realities others refuse to acknowledge. Carl Gustav Jung, the cartographer of the psyche's uncharted depths, called this differentiated perception, an ability to read micro-expressions, sense hidden emotions, and unravel psychological patterns invisible to the collective eye. He didn't see it as a mere talent, but as a dangerous discovery, one that could either destroy those who bear it or transform them into something extraordinary. These seers, these rare souls with eyes that pierce the unconscious, often end up exiled, not for their flaws but for their clarity. They see through social masks, detect lies in a heartbeat, and feel the unspoken tensions that bind a room together or tear it apart. But this vision comes at a cost: isolation, exhaustion, and the unraveling of relationships, not because they're broken, but because their sight is too piercing for a world that prefers shadows. Today we'll journey into Jung's most perilous revelation, the fate of those who see everything, why this gift threatens to shatter them, and how, if mastered, it can forge them into pioneers of human consciousness. Jung's discovery began with a patient who walked into his practice in 1913, during his own descent into the abyss, after his break with Freud, a woman whose story would haunt his notes and shape his understanding of the psyche. She was an introverted intuitive, a rare type, her perception so finely tuned she could walk into any gathering and sense its psychological pulse. Who was hiding grief behind laughter? Who was cloaking ambition in humility? Who was lying to themselves and others? Jung called her ability undifferentiated intuitive perception, a faculty that let her see the unconscious currents others ignored. She didn't just observe, she knew with a clarity that unnerved those around her. Small talk was impossible. She saw through every facade. Friendships crumbled, people felt exposed, judged by her gaze, though she offered no condemnation. Employment eluded her. Her presence disrupted the unspoken agreements that hold groups together, those collective illusions that allow society to function. Jung realized he wasn't treating madness. He was witnessing what happens when the unconscious becomes too conscious. When perception becomes so differentiated, it threatens social survival. In his private writings, Jung described her with awe and concern. She speaks of others as if she holds their secret thoughts, their hidden motives, and when I probe, her observations prove startlingly accurate. This wasn't delusion or paranoia. It was a consciousness so advanced, it became a liability. She saw the depression behind forced smiles, the desperation beneath polished confidence. The collective shadow groups silently agreed to bury. But this clarity made her a mirror, reflecting truths others couldn't bear to face. Jung called this the problem of the superior function, when your greatest strength becomes your greatest wound, separating you from the collective unconscious that binds humanity. Her gift wasn't the danger was the isolation it bred, the way it made her a target for shadow projection, where others attacked her for revealing what they refused to see in themselves. Jung wrote in Psychology of the Unconscious, "Nothing has a stronger influence psychologically on their environment than the unlived life of the parent." But he saw this principle ripple through all relationships. When a seer's clarity reflects someone's shadow, their repressed fears, desires, or shame, the unconscious has two paths: integrate or attack. Most choose attack, blaming the seer for the discomfort of exposure. Jung's patient faced this relentlessly. A gentle observation about someone's pain was met with accusations of negativity. A quiet concern about a group's dysfunction was labeled as judgment. She wasn't creating problems, she was unveiling them, and the world punished her for it. Jung called this the scapegoat phenomenon. The highly perceptive become the repository for a group's unacknowledged truths, blamed for the chaos they only reveal. They don't just feel misunderstood, they feel hunted, targeted by a force they can't explain, as if their vision itself is a crime. Yet Jung's discovery grew darker still. He identified 4 patterns within the introverted intuitive type, each grappling with this overwhelming perception in distinct ways, each a unique lens on the unconscious. First, the feeling intuitive. Those who don't just see but feel others' emotions in their bones, absorbing joy, pain, or rage as if it were their own. Jung wrote, "They live in a state of emotional contagion, carrying the unlived feelings of everyone around them." Second, the thinking intuitive. Those who see psychological patterns and predict outcomes with eerie precision, foreseeing betrayals, failures, or triumphs before they unfold, not through logic, but through unconscious recognition. Third, the sensation intuitive. Those who sense the physical echoes of psychological states, detecting illness before symptoms, feeling tension before it's spoken. Jung called them early warning systems for the psyche and body. Finally, the pure intuitive, the rarest, overwhelmed by a flood of perceptions they can't organize, drowning in a sea of unconscious data without a framework to anchor it. Each type carries a unique burden, a distinct way of wrestling with a world that doesn't see what they do. The danger of this gift lies not in the seeing, but in its unintegrated weight. Jung identified 3 existential threats. First, collective unconscious disruption. These seers threaten the unspoken agreements that hold society together. Agreements to ignore certain truths, to uphold illusions for cohesion. Their clarity destabilizes, making them outcasts in a world that thrives on selective blindness. Second, psychological isolation. Jung wrote, "The curse of consciousness is that it cannot be shared with those who do not possess it." They become islands in an ocean of unconsciousness, living in a reality apart. Their solitude not just social, but existential. Third, identity dissolution. The most perilous threat, absorbing others' unconscious contents, can erode their own sense of self. Jung called this participation mystique, a state where boundaries blur and the seer merges with the collective, losing their individuality in a flood of external psyches. This isn't just exile, it's annihilation, the self consumed by what it perceives. Jung's solution was individuation, a path to integrate this vision without succumbing to its dangers. It begins with recognition and differentiation, learning to separate your own psyche from the flood of others' unconscious material. Jung urged daily solitude, a sacred pause to let absorbed energies settle, revealing your authentic voice. Next, shadow integration, acknowledging your own capacity for the flaws you see in others. By owning your shadow, you see clearly without judgment, freeing yourself from the burden of others' projections. Finally, conscious participation, engaging with the collective unconscious without losing yourself, becoming a bridge between hidden truths and the world, holding others' shadows without being consumed. Jung wrote, "The individuated person serves as a vessel, making the unconscious conscious without sacrificing their own integrity." Jung studied history to understand this gift's dual nature, destruction or transformation. Nietzsche, with his piercing insight into human facades, wielded his perception as a weapon, isolating himself and collapsing under its weight. Jung noted, "He saw too clearly but remained identified with his vision, unintegrated, consumed." In contrast, Meister Eckhart, the medieval mystic, channeled his mystical intuition into compassionate wisdom, offering insights that invited understanding rather than resistance. Jung himself faced this crucible during his Red Book years, nearly shattered by his own visions, until he learned to integrate them, turning his perception into a tool for healing rather than a source of torment. For those with this gift, Jung emphasized finding the few who understand, those rare souls who can meet your clarity without fear. These include fellow individuated persons who recognize your authenticity instantly, those engaged in individuation who value your insights through their own inner work, and natural containers, mature souls who hold space for truth without crumbling. Jung taught a careful protocol for revealing your perception. Start small, gauge reactions. Offer insights as gifts, not judgments. The goal isn't universal acceptance, but connection with those who can engage your vision as a contribution to truth. Integrated, This perception becomes cultural medicine, a gift to humanity's evolution. Jung saw these seers as consciousness pioneers, sensing patterns, social, environmental, spiritual, before the collective is ready. They feel the world's problems first, their personal struggles mirroring what society must eventually face. Jung wrote, "What is not brought to consciousness comes to us as fate." Those who integrate their vision help humanity confront its shadow before it erupts destructively. Yet pitfalls abound. The inflation trap, believing your clarity makes you a savior, leads to preaching and isolation. Withdrawal, using your vision to justify retreat, masks cowardice as wisdom. The helper's haze, defining yourself by others' needs, sacrifices your own growth. And overwhelm can return, flooding boundaries during stress. Jung's maintenance practices: solitude, selective engagement, ongoing shadow work, creative expression, keep integration alive. A dynamic dance with your complexity. Jung's patient from 1913, after years of individuation, transformed her curse into a gift. She became a counselor, her perception guiding others without overwhelming her. She found relationships with those who valued her clarity, living not as an outcast, but as a beacon. Jung wrote, "She learned not to see less, but to see more wisely, engaging consciously with what she perceived." This is the heart of his dangerous discovery. Some are born with consciousness ahead of their time, a vision that can destroy or transform. Your perception isn't a flaw, it's an evolutionary edge. The question isn't whether to suppress it, but whether you'll master it, turning isolation into wisdom, overwhelm into service. If this resonates, if you see what others miss, share in the comments which type of perceiver you are: feeling, thinking, sensation, or pure intuitive. Your journey connects with others on this path. Subscribe for more of Jung's revelations about the psyche's untamed frontiers. You're not too much for this world. You're exactly what it needs, a pioneer of awakening, if you learn to wield your vision with wisdom.